Hey everyone, and welcome to John Talks Indian Cinema. I am your host, the Indian Cine-MANIAC, back with another 10-ish minute review. First of all, I want to thank everybody. I'm getting closer to that 1,500 subscribers. Right now, I think as of this recording, 1,440 subscribers. So slowly moving up, all because of you guys. I thank you for that. And to hit that 1,500, how about you subscribe, you hit the notification button, you hit the like button, and more importantly, you share these reviews because that seems to be the way we're expanding the Maniac universe. All right. All right. Let me stop the flickering light back there. There you go. Okay. So, first, I want to apologize. Someone recommended this film that I'm going to review, and I cannot find who recommended it. So, I apologize for that. If you let me know in the comment section, I'll make it up to you, I promise. But the film I'm reviewing is from 2021, and the film is Malik, which I believe means master. It's directed by Mahesh Narayanan, and it stars one of my favorite actors, Fahadh Faasil, who I've seen in Pushpa 1 and 2, Avesham, which he was fantastic in, Vikram, amongst others. I've seen him in a lot of stuff, Super Deluxe. Nimisha Sajayan, no, Sajayan. Great Indian Kitchen and Jigarthandra Double X. Vinay Fortt, Joju George, who I've seen in Thug Life recently, Retro recently, and the film Trance. And Sonal Aman, who played Freddy, an important role in this. This is a Malayalam film. Okay, so I already told you up front, I am a huge fan of Fafa. Huge. Avesham's one of my favorite films. He was so great in that, but frankly, he's great in everything he does. So I was really looking forward to this. Okay, the story. The story is, in my opinion, and maybe because I just watched it, kind of a remake of Nayakan and The Godfather Part 2. It took elements from both, and it's basically the story of a big time gangster who does a lot of good things for the community and is beloved by the community. And through the course of the film, gets arrested, and the almost 3/4 of the film he's in jail, and the plot of the story is everybody wants him dead. Or I shouldn't say everybody, because the village loves him, but there are certain factions that want him dead, and they're trying to get someone to go into the jail to kill him, and eventually they get his nephew, his true nephew. Not, in India, everyone calls everybody uncle. Well, this guy is truly his uncle. And the struggle of the young boy played by Freddie, young boy, he's a teenager, and to Fafa's character that's known, it was kind of strange because he goes by three different names. Amada Dali, Suleiman, and Ali. And throughout the course of the film, they're always calling him a different name. And that's the story. And ultimately, what happens to his character that at the beginning kind of lets you know that he's not going to survive the film. Now, I mean, that really is the story. And obviously, in this film, they build up who he is, and then they show flashbacks to how he got there, similar to Nayakan. So, and The Godfather. So, because of that, I give the story a 2, especially since I just saw the other movie with Kamal Hassan, and it was so similar to it. But there were some things, and I want to pick out a couple of things. First of all, his introduction. This isn't like a Bollywood film where they do this amazing introduction where the sun's behind them with the fans blowing in his face, or like in the Singham movies, the car is spinning around and Ajay Devgan comes flying out of the car. It wasn't like that, but it was an amazing 14-minute one take shot, tracking shot. And I read that they had to do it 7 times till they got it right. And it's a pretty amazing scene. And it's his introduction. And it's also very similar to the opening scene of The Godfather when he's got the audience and people are coming in to see him. That's kind of what it reminded me of, because he comes across as his character comes across as an older guy but a nice guy, right? Well respected. And then when the doors close and he's talking to a dirty politician, all of a sudden you see the gangster. But that tracking shot was really impressive. It really stood out. In fact, I wrote that down. I go, wow, look at that. Um, so at the beginning of the film, after that scene, he goes to the airport and they mute the color to like almost a gray. And he's about to board the plane, but he gets arrested. And he gets arrested for TADA, TADA, which I did not know what that was. So I had to look it up. And that is terrorist and disruptive activities for a crime that happened 20 years prior. Now, he didn't know he was going to get arrested, but he thought he was going to die. Well, now he gets arrested. Now it unfolds, and you see his backstory. And that's where I have seen Fafa in a lot of movies, and I think he's an amazing actor. He's a chameleon. He never is never the same character twice. I was disappointed in him in this film because one, he's not in it all that much. And two, he doesn't really have a lot to do for a big chunk of the movie that he is in. Now, what I will say is that one of the things that really impressed me was when they show him in the present, he's an older guy, he looks a little bit older. And then in the flashbacks, he's a very young guy. And the demeanor's different, the energy is different, and there's a really big contrast between the two. So that I really did like. Um, but there were scenes, they're trying to build who this guy is, and there's a whole thing between Christians and the Muslims, and he ends up falling in love with a Christian, and marries her, and his best friend David, who ends up turning on him, betrayal. But there's a lot of that, and at the mosque, they dump everything on this mosque, and it's like piles and piles of garbage. And he works it out so they'll get rid of it by befriending a cop played by Joju George, who was very good in this, very subtle. One of his a cop who befriended this gangster because he knew his motivation for doing this stuff was for the village. The village was, wait a minute, I wrote this down too. Um, where did I put it? Something Polly. Oh my goodness. You guys are going to be mad at me because I can't find it. I wrote it down. Oh, Ramadapali. Ramadapali. And everything was done for that village. And the tension now I have to say that they built a lot of tension, but it it, it was a little hard to follow. And certain things happened, like at the end. Okay. And again, this is 2021, so it's going to be a bit of a spoiler, but they arranged to get Freddie, his nephew, in the same cell with them because he got arrested and they made a deal with him for him to kill his uncle. And they tell him all the reasons why, how bad he is, and a lot of people died around him. Uh, so at one point, he strangles him, but Fafa is able to get away and actually has a gun in the cell and pulls the gun on the kid and says, I can't do this anymore. Now, here's where it got, and maybe, I guess I just missed something because now Fafa's character just kind of keels over, almost like he had a heart attack, right? And then the doctor, who's a young woman who befriended Freddie and was really the only one that was nice to him because all the cops are pretty much dirty in the film. She comes in, puts something around Fafa's neck to uh, not to strangle him, I think to make it look like he hung himself. I think that's what that was. But then you find out that she is the daughter of the cop in the flashbacks that kind of befriended him. So I didn't quite understand that. I didn't quite understand that. So maybe I missed something. So I would love someone to explain that to me because I'm just not sure. I'm not saying I couldn't have missed it. I probably did, but I would love to hear that. Oh, the one other thing about Fafa that I want to say: the scene where his son gets killed in a bunch of the cops, and I guess this is based on something that really happened. The cops, to quell riots, just shot into the village, and his young son, I think his name was Amir, gets killed. That scene was like heartbreaking, and again, a one shot. He's trying to get to the kid, and he's going through the town that there's bullets flying everywhere, and the camera just stays with him till he finally gets to the beach, and there's his dead son, and he's overwhelmed, and he's carrying the body. That was powerful and emotional, and brilliantly done by Fafa. So as far as the performances go, Malayalam films are they're very grounded. They're very, I don't know if naturalistic is the right word, although he is a very naturalistic actor. I think that's part of the reason I like Avesham so much because he elevated it a bit, and it was so unlike him. But the performances were, I mean, the story I gave it to, the performances I'll give a three. They were good, but I've seen him much better. And again, I think part of the problem was he's not in it that much. And when he is, he's in jail most of the time. And they're talking about him in jail, but you don't see him in jail. So the performances were three. As far as music goes, there was only a couple of songs, and they're not Bollywood, production numbers. Um, the first song they played, he had success smuggling for the first time. So it's kind of a montage of him doing that. And there's a great scene where they're smuggling something in a motorboat, and someone lets the Coast Guard know. So the Coast Guard shows up, and they're following them, and they're heading right for the beach. All of a sudden, their boat goes up on the beach, and it's got wheels, and they drove it right off the beach. So the Coast Guard couldn't go after them. I thought that was pretty funny. And the second song was about his love and marriage to Rosalind, I think it was Rosalind, and that was a cute little montage, but no crazy numbers in it. And the incidental music was good too, so I gave the music a three. Overall, I just found it wasn't very linear, the storytelling, which was okay, but it was kind of hard to follow, and it was kind of hard to understand motivations of people in this. Like now, maybe that's a because I'm reading subtitles. Maybe I don't get the nuances, which certainly could be the case. It's happened in other movies, but it just some of it just didn't make sense to me. It was beautifully shot, I have to say that, and they did a lot of single takes. They did that a lot in this movie, and that was kind of cool. I thought it was too long because there was scenes where nothing was happening. Um, but overall, I have to give this movie a three. He is. I do enjoy his performances. I just wasn't bowled over by this one. Um, so I whoever recommended that, I'm sorry that I wasn't blown away from it by it. But it was just a little hard for me to follow and maybe even understand a little bit, which could be, and that happens once in a while, and then you guys will beat me up because I don't understand the culture as well as I should, and that's okay. That's part of this journey, okay? But I had to look up what Urus is, why they celebrate that. I had to look up Tada. Um, And I think that was it. Anything else stand out for me? Oh yeah, they're smuggling, and what they were smuggling was cologne. First, I thought it was liquor, and then they pulled it out, and it was like Brute and woman's cologne. I thought that was pretty funny. Um, oh, and there is one other scene I'll tell you. His mother, who testified him originally, testified against him, and she knows he's bad. And they try to convince her to convince Freddie to kill him in jail. So there's a scene in the hospital, and they've got surveillance stuff, the cops, and they're listening to her, and she's talking about how bad he is, and there's even another flashback scene about what happened. But then she moves in a little bit closer, and she tells him not to do it, and which ticks off the cops. And the last thing I'll tell you about the film and why I got the Godfather vibe. There's a scene where there's another crime boss that killed a bunch of kids in Fafa's warehouse, blew it up while there were kids in there. So he wants to exact his revenge. So like Godfather 2, when De Niro was up on the roof following the Dawn through Italy, and then finally shoots him. They do something similar to that. He's up on the roof. They're following this Dawn through the village, and finally they confront him. And Fafa takes a tire iron and just beats the hell out of him, and blood splatting all over the place. But that was straight out of Godfather too. So I wasn't crazy when he said that's from the Godfather, but they admit that. So anyway, that's my review of Malik. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and if I'm crazy, or maybe you can explain some stuff that I didn't quite understand. Okay. All right. So that's it. So as always, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button, and as always, please share. And no recommendation today. And we'll get back to you soon with another 10ish-minute review or a 10ish-minute trailer reaction. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.